Speaking of skills, writing dissertations, that's hard. That's quite a skill in and of itself. Whatever methodology you choose, it is going to be a difficult path. And this was something that I found very interesting about the book, and I'd love for you to be able to summarize it for us to talk more about it, is that inside of the book, there is actually a section that says making good use of a dissertation after graduation, which I love the name of that because of, for many people I've talked to within the academic world, is that for some folks, they have the mindset of once it's done, it's done. I'm never doing this again. That is just, it's just like, but wait a second, like you learned about so many things within research and with interviewing, with reading data, interpreting things. Like there's a lot of different things we could talk about here. And some people are like, meh, it's really done. So this is certainly a struggle as far as trying to be able to figure out what do I actually do with this, especially within the higher education world, and corporate as well, and everything else too. And one example that I think about when I was thinking about from the book as well too is that I did for my dissertation, it was an explanatory sequential mixed methods approach. Fun, nerdy type of an approach there. But I actually used this type of a research methodology and I applied that into how we evaluate our online courses over at MIT X Pro. It became the model with the help of my colleagues. That's what we based it around. So that's one example about how you can take what you've done for your research and apply it into your work. But I would love to hear more about from you, from some other different types of examples about how someone can apply their dissertation efforts into a type of a real world scenario.
Oh, fantastic. And I want to give my co-author, Kevin Kelly, the credit here. He was the primary writer for that chapter. So I'm grateful to him to be able to summarize the advice that we all share there. And to non-specialist audiences, basically everybody outside your dissertation committee, your dissertation can become evidence of skills and competencies. And you listed off a bunch, so you've already done that kind of thinking. A good way to start is identify some key words that would help your people find your stuff if they were searching for it and they knew how to find it. So what are key words from your discipline and your subdiscipline? Like if you're in astrobiology or cultural studies or TESOL or sociology. What are key words that deal with the research methodology that you use? You talked about mixed method and qualitative. So focus groups, surveys, I use gas chromatography, I do applied research, I do sentiment analysis of text messages, whatever that is. But also talk about your data analysis techniques. Are you doing regression, analysis of variance, the ANOVA technique? Are you doing topic modeling? What are those keywords that describe how you're doing the analysis? What is the topic for your research itself? What's your research population? Were you working with K-12 people, higher education folks, people in industry? And what are aspects of your work that are trending or perpetually popular, right? So data analytics, or I'm working with stem cells, or I analyze social media, or I'm a change agent or organizational change, or I work in robotics or cancer research or renewable energy. What are the big buzzwordy topics? And if you take all of those pieces together, your discipline, your research methodology, the analysis, the research topic, who you're working with, and what are those big things that lay people would understand, then when you have those keywords together, you can start writing paragraphs of how to share your ideas in shorter, simpler forms. Those can take the forms of journal articles, conference presentations. Yeah, those are the things we all start with. But also blogs and listservs and social media posts, each with one shining idea in it, or a podcast episode, kind of like what we're doing now. And finally, ask what you want that dissertation research to do for you. What are the core ideas that you want to share, and what format makes the most sense for that? How much time do you have to convert your dissertation into public-facing things? What do you want to reach in terms of the ideas and the audience? Would that audience understand the dissertation as it's written? Usually not. And how could you convey your ideas without using specialized language? And that's a skill, and it takes practice. What are your goals beyond just publishing your work in another format? Do you want to increase your exposure to a certain audience? Do you want people to use your stuff in a practical way? And are there career or job ideas already in your work? Is there a job that you would like to do, but that job doesn't really exist yet? Could you go to a company or a college or university and say, you know, you really need somebody to do marketing data analytics segmentation. And you don't have somebody yet, but that's what I did my dissertation on, and boy, could I help you. That kind of stuff, it comes out of that skill inventory when you're thinking about your dissertation.
I love that. That approach is so fantastic too, because you're right. People certainly do need a lot of help in different types of areas. And until you actually start saying those types of words, where they're like, oh yeah, we don't have that department. Or like, oh yeah, we actually got rid of that 2 years ago, but we really need it back. So no, it all makes a lot of sense. Well, I like to pivot for a second, Tom, because going aside from the whole dissertation aspect, another huge thing that a lot of people inside of academia within our space talk about is with consulting. That always seems to be everyone saying that, well, once I do X, Y, and Z, I'm going to go into consulting as well too. And it's like, okay, great. But do you know how to actually do that is always kind of like my next question. And I was fortunate enough, I had Christy Tucker. She came on the podcast a while ago talking about, well, how do you do freelance? Because that's another thing that everyone's always like, oh, I'm just going to do freelance. And I was like, yeah, but it actually takes quite a bit of effort and some thought here and trying to make sure the customer's happy and finding the clients and, going through all of those motions. So to me, consulting still has that type of a similarity where it's not like I can just say, hey, I'm now a consultant. Like, it's just, it doesn't work like that. So in your opinion, from what you wrote about, can you describe for us about how one actually does get into consulting and how to really make this an effective type of a practice?
Yeah, that was one of my chapters, because I was the person who got out there and did the side hustle, and that side hustle became my main hustle for a while as well. And then I came back into higher education. I'm one of those big chickens who likes to have a health insurance and a steady paycheck. At the same time, we are in a culture now where almost everybody is expected to have some kind of second line of what we do. And even if we go back even 10 or 15 years, that expectation wasn't there. So when we think about having a side hustle or a second piece or doing consulting, either as what we do for a living or as a nice little addition to the full-time job that we've got, you talk about your own personal brand. And these are things that we don't talk about in academia, right? So how much should you charge for giving a talk, doing a workshop? No one will tell you.
Yeah.
Right? And that was a boundary that I had to really get over when we're thinking about personal branding, right? So for what am I doing this work? Where would I want to do it? How do I want to be known? What is the quick story about me that I want people to remember? Starting out, though, with consulting is starting to build an audience in another way. So avenues for publication, avenues for communication. So writing blogs, doing podcasts like this one, doing an opinion piece and getting it published in the Chronicle of Higher Education or The Conversation or The Evolution or those kinds of spaces where lots of higher education readers will be looking. The other part of it is myth busting, right? So self-promotion is unscholarly. We should be volunteering our efforts. Yeah, if you have a tenure-line job and you're being paid to have that extra bandwidth to give back to the service. If you don't have someone paying you and then part of your job is giving back to the profession, guess what? That's a volunteer effort. And the challenge for me was, okay, well, is it okay if I say, I'm pretty good and you should work with me? And the answer is yes there. Another myth that we have to bust. No one will want to hear from me. I'm just starting out. It's the newer voices in our fields who are asking questions that the rest of us thought were settled a long time ago, or they're asking questions that we didn't even think to ask. So when you're thinking about how you want to pitch yourself to other folks with consulting, is there a problem or a question that nobody has figured out yet? Is there something where you can help people even get one more step toward, yeah, we understand that? That's a value that you bring. There's another myth to bust here, which is someday I will get noticed if I just work hard and persevere. What that means is you will put in an awful lot of effort and no one will pay you any attention at all. Right? Now, every once in a while, people get quote unquote discovered, right? Some long-serving person in the field goes, hey, that younger person is doing really good work, or this person, who's been in another field for a long time and just came in is fantastic, and you all should look at that person. That almost never happens. So the challenge there is you have to create moments where you are visible, where you are out there in front of other people. And then you have to tell people that it's okay to continue the conversation. You can give the best conference presentation you've ever given in your life, and people will leave it and go, oh, I'm really thinking about that, and this person really helped me to understand a new thing. That's awesome. And no one will reach out to you. The other part of that is like, I'll charge less, or I'll do it for free just to get the exposure. Value your work. So at the end of conference presentations, when I was first starting out in my career, my last slide was a smiling picture of me with the one book that I had published, and it had my website, thomasjtobin.com, on there. And I would give a one-sentence non-commercial at the end of the presentation. And I would say, thank you very much for being here with me today. I hope you got some good ideas out of this. I speak and consult on this issue and a bunch of other ones. If you'd like to continue the conversation, here's how to get in touch with me. Thanks again for coming. And then I turn that slide off and I go to the last slide. I always check with the conference organizers first to see if that's frowned upon, and if they don't want me to do it, I don't do it. But if it's okay to say, hey, by the way, if you'd like to continue the conversation, get in touch with me, that's how people know. The last piece about that is marketing yourself, right? So you do have to do a little self-marketing. You have to put a rate sheet together. You have to put a website together for people to see. And in the book, we talk about how do you set your rates. The question that no one will tell you about, we tell you about in the book. And how do people know you're an expert? I hate to say it this simply, but you tell them you're an expert. And then, of course, you have the chops to back it up. It is, though, that simple. Give people ways to understand the signal, right? It's not just, ooh, that was really great, I wonder if they consult, but, ooh, that was really great, and they said at the end that they consult, so I'm going to get in touch with them. So that's one way to start, is think about your personal brand, think about avenues for publication and communication and getting yourself out there, and then actually say, by the way, I do this, and see what comes in.
Oh, fantastic. Love it, Tom. Thank you for sharing all those things. Wonderful, amazing moments. And the folks at home, I hope you were taking notes, because we've talked about on the show at length about building your brand, finding your voice. But I also love, too, the whole myth busting segment, because it's so true, where people do talk about how it's just like, just do it for free. It's fine. And it's just like, eventually you keep on getting these free gigs, and all of a sudden you're like, I'm working 40 hours a week for free, and I don't know what's coming next. Like, you're trying to...
The opposite is actually true. When I raised my rates, I got more business because people thought, oh, that person must be worth the more money.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, exactly. It's that value, because you are now saying, no, I am credible. No, I am valuable. My time is valuable, but you will get a whole bunch out of it because you know, well, what I'm actually bringing to the table. And it just is so true.
Exactly.
So absolutely true with everything you just said. So